Recently, I was in Florida for a real estate conference, and while I was there, I got a nice little glimpse of Florida. My grandparents actually used to live there years ago, and I have had several clients reach out recently from Florida saying that they have decided that they are going to be moving here to Salt Lake City. And I thought, oh, this actually would be a great video to shoot of why people are moving from Florida to Utah. I know when we moved from California to Utah, people were like, why are you moving from California to Utah? And there are some really, there's some pros and cons to living in Florida. There's pros to living here in Salt Lake. So today we're just going to take a deep dive of why, if you are living in Florida or you know people that are in Florida, why they might be living, making a move here and choosing to live here in Salt Lake instead of Florida. And we're going to hop into it right now. Mariah Koehle here. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if this is your very first time here. I'm a licensed and active real estate agent here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and this channel is literally everything you need to know about eating, working, playing, sleeping, and living in the Salt Lake City, Utah area. If that is of interest to you, consider subscribing down below and make sure you tap that bell for notifications so you are notified every week we drop a new video. We hear from people like you all the time who are looking to make a move, looking to relocate, or looking to buy or sell a property here in Utah, and we absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about making a move in a week, in a month, or even a year from now, feel free to give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email, and it'd be our absolute pleasure to connect with you. So like I said, I recently was in Florida for a real estate conference, and I got a really great glimpse of Florida. Like I said, my grandparents used to live in Florida as well, so we went and visited them a couple times. The beaches are spectacular. There is a lot of great things to love about Florida, but I have noticed just recently that I have had clients moving from Florida and relocating here to Salt Lake. So today we're going to hop into really some reasons people are making that move, why people are relocating, and just some pros and cons about both of them. So we know there are a lot of pros to living in Florida. You've got those beautiful sandy beaches. You've got the warm weather year round and that kind of tropical climate. And guess what? No state income tax is a big one. If you are thinking about retiring and relocating, I know I've actually had clients, I sell real estate in California as well. I have had clients in California relocate to Florida simply because of taxes. They're like, for what we can do here in California and what we can do in Florida, it's night and day difference. So taxes is a big one. So that income tax, that no state income tax, that one adds up. So that is a biggie of why people really are moving to Florida. Like I said, you've got the beaches, you've got the year-round warm weather, and you've got that tax situation. But however, with that being said, people are, relocating out of Florida for some reasons too. Number one, hurricanes. Yes, those, that hurricane season ends up being longer than some people might want. And the devastation that those natural disasters cause is a big one. I actually was recently talking to a real estate agent, a partner of mine that lives in Florida. She lives in Orlando, and she was talking about, she's like, oh yeah, when we used to live, and she was talking about different areas that they have lived in Florida. She's like, we actually moved from this area over here and we moved from here to here simply because either their house was destroyed from a hurricane or their family members were, so then they relocated. So hurricanes is it's a big deal there. I know when I had a family that was relocating from California to Florida, the house they actually bought, and they were showing me this house, and they were like, Mariah, take a look at this house that we're thinking about buying. And I looked at it, I was like, gosh, it looks beautiful. And you start reading like the descriptions of the home, and it's like brand new roof and brand new this and and I'm like, gosh, it was built, and we were kind of looking at it and we're like, gosh, it was built 20 years ago, but it's got a new roof and it's got a this and it's got a new, whatever. And then as we took more of a deep dive on it, it's like, well, the reason everything is new on it is because the home was demolished by a hurricane. So it basically, needed to be rebuilt. So that's just something to kind of keep in mind of why people are, making that move. So hurricanes is a big one. Number two is the humidity. The humidity. Now, my grandparents, they lived in Minnesota for years and years and years, and then they, decided they were going to relocate to Florida. Well, my grandma was like, I feel like I can't even breathe half the time because the humidity is just so high. She goes, I'm dripping constantly all the time. So if you are not into the humidity, Florida may not be a good fit. And then also you've got really just all the tourists that come into Florida as well. It ends up being very crowded during the year. Certain times of the year are more crowded. So you've got the hurricane seasons, you've got the high humidity, you've got the big crowds, and let's talk about bugs for just a second. You've got bugs because the humidity is a lot hotter there. You're going to have more bugs, you're going to have more insects. I know if you have seen many of the a lot of the pools, when people have pools, they usually have some kind of enclosure around that pool. And actually, I had a client that relocated here that had a pool and had, the whole thing enclosed. And I was asking her about it. I said, hey, and because she had sent me the listing on her home, and I said, beautiful home and love the backyard. I said, here in Utah and in California, and said we didn't have those big enclosures around the pool. How, why do they have that there in Florida? And she goes, well, a couple of reasons. Number one, simply the bugs, and number two, the alligators, really to keep out the creatures that want to get into the water, because a lot of those pools and properties will back right up to some kind of wetlands area. So to keep everything out, they usually enclose them. So that is really, some of the reasons why people are moving out. Now, people here are, that are moving from Florida, people are moving here to Salt Lake for a lot of different reasons. Number one, you've got the four seasons. In Florida, you don't really typically, have that four seasons. It's kind of vacation land all the time, which is great for some people. And some people, that's exactly what they want. If you don't mind the high humidity, if you don't mind some of the bugs, if you don't mind the hurricane season, that might be a fabulous fit for you. However, I was just talking to somebody the other day, and they're like, I actually want snow at Christmas. I actually want, a real look, I want it to look like fall in the fall time. So really that four seasons that you will get here in Utah, you'll get the four seasons. You will definitely get that. Second, I know we talked about taxes earlier. In Florida, there's that no state income tax. Here in Utah, you will have what's called a flat tax, which is 4.85%. And it's not gradual. It is just a flat tax all the way across for, state income tax. So for some people, they're like, you know what, I'd rather stay in Florida where there isn't one. But some people don't mind having just that flat tax here in Salt Lake. Where number three, simply the job opportunities here in Utah. I know I have talked about this a lot in different videos, but there are a lot of different job opportunities depending on what you are looking at. Utah draws in a lot of entrepreneurs. It draws in a lot of people who are in the education field, anything with the tech industry. We've got the Silicon Slopes that are in Lehi, Utah, which is based off the Silicon Valley in California. So just a lot of jobs, in that way. So people are moving here for those job opportunities. Number four, simply the mountains and just the beautiful outdoors that you are going to have here. Florida has gorgeous beaches. They've got, the palm trees. They've got a lot of a different kind of beauty. And I always say there's beauty everywhere. So here, though, in Utah, if you are into hiking, biking, all of those type of things, skiing in the winter, snowboarding, all of that, Utah might be a really good fit for you simply because it's a big outdoorsy type of place. You're going to see lots of runners and bikers and hikers, and the mountains are literally in your backyard, like literally in your backyard. To get to these mountains here, it's maybe 5 minutes, and there are so many different places to hike right behind here. In fact, there are bike trails that go right along the side, and if you are a mountain biker, there are trails that go all the way up. So if you are into outdoor activities, Utah might be a good fit for you as well. Moving right along, you've got, like I said, the beautiful outdoors, you've got the beautiful mountains here, very active lifestyle. There is a major, major contrast between Florida and Salt Lake. I remember how I said Florida, you've got that high humidity. Well, Utah, you do not have that high humidity. In fact, it is very dry here. And I know some of my clients that have moved here have been like, oh my goodness, like I don't even feel like I'm sweating right now because it's a very dry, it's a dry heat here and it's a dry cold. So a lot of times when it gets hot, it's hot, but because it's so dry, you're not like that. You don't feel that humidity where in Florida, if you go out for a bike ride, a walk or whatever, you're going to feel that humidity so much more simply because it's really humid. Here you've got the dryness of it. Depending on what you're comfortable with or what you're like, you're going to probably want to use more lotion on your hands. You're going to probably want to take out the chapstick here in Utah simply because of the dryness and the low humidity. Moving on to the next one, here in Utah, I had mentioned this before a little bit, just with job opportunities, there's a low unemployment rate here in Salt Lake. So because of that low unemployment, you're going to have, like I said, there's a lot of job opportunities. People are moving here simply because they can find work. Another reason that people are moving here from Florida is simply low crime rate, and you've got another reason that people are moving here to Salt Lake, simply the low crime rate, the family friendly, and then also really just the livability. People like living here because it's a slower pace of life. There's a lot of family friendly things. There's a lot of neighborhood community type of gatherings. There's a lot of parades. There's a lot of just real community involvement and a sense of community. I know some people that have moved here before, they're like, Mariah, we moved in and our neighbors on this side brought us a plate of cookies and our neighbors on this side asked if if we needed help moving in, and they just felt that, really camaraderie and love of family and friends and community. So that's another big one that people they like the livability, they like just what Utah has to offer in that way. Some of the reasons that I've noticed that people are moving here from Florida to Salt Lake. Salt Lake may not be for you though if, here's a couple of different things that come right off the top of my head. 4 seasons. So yes, you're going to have the 4 seasons and you're going to have some pretty cold winters. The year that I am shooting this, 2023, we had a very cold, snowy winter here, and it actually drove people out of Salt Lake. It actually drove people, they were like, I met with some clients that were like, we're out of here. We are headed Texas, Florida. We're actually, going to Arizona because the winter was just too cold. We don't want to shovel snow anymore. We don't want to deal with that. So know that coming into it too. If you're thinking, okay, you know what? Florida might not be where I want to stay because of the humidity, because of the hurricanes, because of the bugs, whatever. Here in Utah, you're going to have trade-offs. Sure, you're not going to have the high humidity. In fact, like I said, it's going to be really dry. You're going to lots of different job opportunities that you're going to see here, low crime rate, but you are going to get the 4 seasons and you are going to get snow here. So if you can't deal with the snow, I always say, you know what, Utah might not be a good fit for you on that one. The cost of living is also another factor to consider if you're thinking about moving from Florida here to Salt Lake. The cost of living here in Salt Lake is more expensive than it is in Florida. But again, for some people, there's a trade-off. They're like, I'd actually rather pay a little bit more, not have the bugs, not have the humidity, not have to worry about hurricane season, lower crime rate, all of those different things. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of a snapshot of some of the reasons why people are making a move from Florida here to Salt Lake. Again, like I had mentioned, some of the things in Florida that, at least clients that are moving here have told me, hey, you know what? I'm not really, I want to be away from the bugs. I want to be away from the hurricanes. I want to be away from those different things. And another one that I didn't touch on is people that are moving here they have family here. Maybe they grew up here and they moved away for a time and they're wanting to get back to family. They're wanting to get back to their roots. So that's another big reason why people are moving here as well. So if you are thinking about making a move, relocating in a month and a year or 2 years from now, feel free to give our team and I a call. We hear from people like you all the time and we absolutely love it. Wishing you a wonderful day. Take care and have a great one. Bye.